Hey guys, Tim Trich here with Ethernet Blueprint. Welcome to our last video. That's right, we are in video number 8 of our 8-part series called Unifi for Newbies. Now, I'm really excited to wrap things up. This has been an exciting series to record for you guys, and we've covered a lot of content. Today's video is going to be very simple. We're just kind of scratch the surface with Unifi Protect. Just teach you enough to be dangerous so you can get in there and tweak your settings and get things going. Now, before we get to the content, like always, I just want to do a quick recap of what we talked about in each of the videos. So if you just happen to stumble upon this video, you can see what the series is all about to see which ones may apply for you. So let's go ahead and review. Video number 1 is really geared towards who is Unifi even for. And it's important to ask. This is different than the regular network that you go by. So we talk through the components, we talk through how it's connected, and I even make some general suggestions as to equipment that I like to use in my builds. Now, video number 2 is really geared towards research. I want to show you guys how to go look up information like the specs and pricing and power requirements so you guys can start piecing together your network. Now, video number 3, we actually take some of that and we build a sample network. I show you how it all connects together. We talk through that process, and I show you 2 different ways on how you can actually get that equipment online. Video number 4 is all about VLANs. VLANs are one of the big reasons that draw people to Ubiquiti. So I show you guys how to create them, how to tie them to Wi-Fi networks, how to tie them to switch ports, and we just walk through that entire process. Now, video number 5 is dedicated to the guest network. And so Ubiquiti offers a couple different cool things, maybe gimmicky, that they do with their guest network. So I thought it deserved an entire video for itself, and we just talked through some of that stuff. It's kind of a neat little process and allows you to do some pretty cool things with your guests. Video number 6 is the longest of all of them, and that is where we talk about firewall rules. And the reason the video is so long is because we take everything very slowly, step by step. This is geared towards newbies, and I want you to understand the concepts that we're talking about here. I even give you some downloadable configuration that you can take with you and use in your builds. Now, video number 7 is an introduction to Unifi Protect. We basically just talk about the Unifi camera system, what Unifi Protect is, and we bring a camera online. Which brings us to video number 8. And that's really just going to be how to set up Unifi Protect, how to get in there and set our motion zones and detection zones. And we're going to just talk through some of the settings so you guys can get your camera set up the way you want. And then at the end of the day, you'll have a great network. All right, so if you watched video 7, you got a quick glimpse of the dashboard, but you might notice I changed my mind on something in that we're not looking at my basement. We are actually looking at my home cameras. I felt for you guys to get a feel of how the camera system works and how it looks, and when we start messing with our zones, it's going to be easier to use cameras in the wild, just so you can kind of see how we block out streets and stuff. It just doesn't work that well when you're looking at a basement wall. So I did change gears a little bit, and so this is my own personal camera system. Now, I really like the dashboard. I think they've done a very good job here. You can quickly see all your cameras. You can go full screen on them. They've done some very nice things with it. You can choose what's displayed on your camera. So we have the time stamp, the date, and the name of the camera, as well as the little Unifi emblem down here. As you hover over the camera, it gives you the ability to take a snapshot of that what's going on. Maybe someone suspicious was walking through your yard and you can take a snapshot of it. You can turn on sound. So it just really is cool. You can go right to the timeline for that camera and kind of see which way the guy came in. They have smart alerts, so when they have like a floodlight, so if the floodlight gets tripped, it'll automatically start recording to a camera. They've really tried to sync their notifications and their system together, and it's just been a very good system and very stable. One thing I will point out is I have a lot of G3 cameras that I am swapping out with the G5 series, but these G3 cameras have worked perfect for me. I've never had an issue with them. They got bird's nests on top of them, all sorts of stuff. They've been there for years. I've never swapped out a camera. They just work. They're still working. Some of these are G3s. So really robust, I think, system, just good. So the dashboard's good. It's going to kind of give you some general information about your NVR, how much camera capacity you have, quickly get to recent detections, which cameras are the most active. I think that's always nice to know. And then what times most of your detections are happening. So you can see we don't have much detections happening in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night. That's the way I like to keep it, so that's a good thing, all right? So let's kind of go down through the menus here. I'm just going to give you a quick little tour, and then we'll get into some of the configuration settings that I recommend, and I'll show you how to do that. So the next one is our Unifi devices. So this is where we can quickly get to our cameras. You can see as we hover over them, we get a little snapshot of what they are. You get to see what model they are. So like I told you, I got some G3s in there that we're going to be swapping out. And, you know, it's going to tell you how long ago it recorded event, what recording mode it's in, everything. Pretty cool. And it's going to tell you if your system is working well. So I think Ubiquity's done a really good job of talking to the layman out there, right? Not everybody's a technical camera expert. And both on the Wi-Fi side and the network side and in the camera system, they kind of give you this experience reading. And it's just basically saying, hey, your system's good. 2 thumbs up, good to go. So, and I like that. It just, at a purview, it's nice to know quickly that things are running well. All right, so then we can come over here into our playback area. Which I don't know why it's doing that. So we can go into our playback area here, which is kind of nice. We can quickly look at, you know, our timeline and detections and things like that on the back patio cam. This is just how to get to your playback, and you're going to get a little slide bar. Let's see if I can go to my driveway cam here. You can see you got some detections over here that it's picked up and started recording. So this is how you move on the timeline when you're kind of looking through your cameras. And then every one you have a little dot right here. That is where something was actually recorded. And you can zoom in on that dot. So you can really go slow and kind of move it back and forth. So with the little zoom, the timeline zoom here. So you can see that it detected a car. This was a smart detection or a motion detection. And you can see right here by this little symbol that it's detecting a car as my wife backs out of the driveway. So kind of cool. You can pause it. Go forward 10 seconds, back 10 seconds, turn on. I mean, once you're in here and using it, you can really kind of tweak and move around. And then based on how you have your settings, maybe yours are just recording all the time and you're looking for a very specific event when this kid walked by or when a car drove by, right? So you can really hone in and zoom in on those events and look at things and listen for sound. All of these cameras have the ability to hear sound. So if someone was talking, you can kind of eavesdrop, which is kind of cool. So that's the playback area. Then you have detections. So this is something that was different back in the earlier cameras. With the G3s, I didn't have smart detection zones and I didn't have detection zones at all. I only had motion zones. So this is kind of a new concept for me that I'm really, to be honest with you, kind of learning myself. I had to do a little diving into this myself to kind of figure out how to use it and how I wanted my system set up. So smart detections are basically where it can detect if it's an animal, a vehicle, or a person, right, coming in. And so you can look at your smart detection. You can look at all your events, all your cameras. You can look at just person events, just animal events, which looks like it threw my... so you can see if I click animal, you can see my dogs out there. They must have walked by while my son was playing basketball, which is kind of cool. So, you know, it's going to look for those things, and you can detect on that. Maybe you're using this in your backyard and you want to know when a deer comes into your yard. This would tell you, which is really, really neat. So that's what the detections are. And then quickly, if you wanted to look at that detection, you can click on it and it'll actually give you a little snippet preview of it being, of it happening, which is also awesome. Just one click and you're in there, okay? So you can kind of click around and get that. The next area is your system log. This is really just kind of, if you are having a problem, hopefully something gets logged, or if you have multiple admins on your camera system, you can see who's logged in, updates, things of that nature. Pretty simple stuff in here. And then we get to our global settings. Now, the global settings basically means that when you set the settings, it goes to all your cameras at once. You're making a global setting. You're not just tweaking a individual camera. You're making settings that no matter which camera you're looking at, you want it to be that. Like the timestamp. You want that timestamp to be on all cameras. You can come into your global settings and turn on timestamps for all of your cameras, okay? You can do that in the system here. So these are our system files. So this is more of the NVR and how you want the system work, what clock format you want, updates, how you want your heat mapping, low latency, things of that nature. I will mention that Ubiquity has done a very good job. If you do upgrade NVRs at a later date, you can back up your configuration and migrate your cameras over to your new system very, very easily. And I'll probably do another video on that just to kind of show you how it's done. But it is very easy. Now, in the old days, you lost your video recordings. Now they have this cloud archive, so maybe you don't lose that. But I haven't looked into it much. It's kind of a newer thing, and I don't know if it's worth it, how well it works. I'm not sure. So, but just know, in the old days, when we moved from one system to another, you could move all your configuration files, all your cameras, all your settings, but you lost your recordings because it is local storage. It didn't transfer the video from one hard drive to the next. It only transferred the files, okay? You can also set some global alerts. So this is like, I want this as our global alerting. There's system issues, there's system alerts, and then there's detection alerts, okay? So system alerts are going to be like, you're having a drive issue, a device issue, device discovery, someone access your camera system. Maybe you have two people manage it and you want to be alerted when somebody logs in, okay? Those are system detections. Then you are system alerts. Then you have detections. Do you want to be alerted for motion zone, people, vehicles, a baby crying? I think that's really, really neat. They actually have an audio detection thing now, which is also very new, and I think that's neat. When to send, custom schedules, off-site. This is that geolocation. So you can actually set a geolocation that says only send notifications when you're more than 200 meters or whatever you set the setting to. That's when it'll send you alerts. It's going to recognize that your phone is gone, you've left the property, and that's when it's going to send you alerts. But when you're home, it won't send them to you. That's a neat idea. I think that's really great. So that's all done in here. And then you can set up, global settings in the recording manager, which we're not going to do any of that right now. So we'll set our camera settings in the cameras. So next, let's look at the camera settings. This is where I think you're going to spend the most time doing things and where you're going to be in tweaking your settings. Most of the global stuff outside of notifications, right? You're going to want to make sure you look at your notifications and you get them set the way you want. And we showed you where that was at in the settings. Now let's look at the cameras. Now there's two things I want to kind of highlight, or one thing I really want to highlight here as we go into my cameras. I'm in the process of upgrading mine. You're going to notice some differences between some of the screens on some of the older stuff like G3s to G5 and G4 Pro, my G4 Pro. So just quickly, I'm going to go over some of the settings in the G3, but we're going to spend most of our time in the G5 Dome Ultra camera because that is really going to be a representation of what you would buy today. But let's just quickly look at the G3 just so I've shown it to you. So if we look at my side camera here, all I need to do is click on that camera, the box pops up, and now I can get into my camera settings. Here's some just quick information. This is an overview. I can click on this and go to the live view right there and start watching it live if I want to. Then we have the settings. So this is how we would override some of those global settings. We can get in and actually come in and tune things. This is also where we name our camera. So you'll definitely go into this screen to name your cameras. I highly recommend naming them, okay? So you can set some things, right? This is how we set the IR and the LED for like night vision. I will say I think Ubiquiti does a good job. I personally think you leave the defaults at least first and then only adjust if you need to. Maybe you have a floodlight that's interacting with some of the LED stuff, but in general I think Ubiquiti does a good job with the basic settings. You can share a stream. Don't know why you would do that, but they've made it possible. I'm sure someone requested it. You can get into the notification settings and override them. So right now we have it set as just use everything how it's set in global. But maybe for this camera, the neighbor kids are in there all the time and you want to tweak the settings so you get notified more often, or you want to, maybe it was notifying too much and you want to adjust, you want to throttle it back. So you use global settings on all your other ones, but you're going to override those settings here. You could uncheck that and do that here. Then we have our advanced settings down here. This is just some of the resolution stuff. And then we can manage this camera, restart it or remove it. Now, if you remove it, I'll hover over this so you can read it. But if you remove it, it does factory reset the camera. It doesn't just disappear from your NVR. It actually factory resets it. So once you hit remove, it'll start that process in the background. And your camera will actually show up as a device ready to be adopted. Okay? And then you have your recording mode. So this is the settings where you'll probably be tweaking and messing with. It's where the majority of what I want to talk about today is going to be in here. So you can look at the overlay, what you want the display on the screen of the camera. I'm going to turn off the bit rate. We don't care about that. Again, I'd leave all this stuff set to default. And then notice I just have edit motion zones down here, right? So if I click on my edit motion zones, I can move these around and get it set the way I want it. It's only going to record if something comes into the pink area, or hopefully you see that as pink. It's pink to me. You can set the threshold. You can name this motion zone, so you can actually have multiple motion zones. Maybe there's a strip in the middle and you want a motion zone over here and a motion zone over here. You can absolutely do that and set your sensitivity. But this is how you do that. I don't want to get triggered every time a car drives on this highway back here, okay? I don't need to know about that, okay? So I've actually kept that out of it on purpose because I don't want to know about it. We have a walking path over here and people walk down the street back and forth. I don't want to know about it. I don't care. When that car drives by, I don't need a recording of it. So that's how I have mine set up. All right, so we'll hit save. Now, the other thing I will show you is privacy zones. Okay, so we'll edit out of this and we'll go to privacy zones. Now, I had to read about this. We don't have them. We don't have a need for them here in Nebraska, but I heard that some states do force people to block out privacy zones, or maybe you live in an area where there's a federal building across the street or something, I don't know, where you have to block out that recording. Your camera's not allowed to record there. It's not even allowed to see there. So they have a thing called privacy zones. You can add as many as you want. So let's just say we had them at my house and I couldn't see my neighbor's house. We just hit add. We go put one in there. We kind of drag our dots where we need them, like this. Okay. Now we have my neighbor's house, out of the way. When I hit save, it'll actually block out his house. My camera's not allowed to view it, record anything, doesn't matter. So that's a privacy zone. Okay. Now, we don't have a need for them here, so I'm just going to delete this out. But if you did have a need for it, that's how you do them. And all the new cameras and old cameras do that. So I'm going to X out of this and X out of this. I want to get into the G5. Let's spend a little time in the newer cameras. So still clicking on it and still got our section over here with the overview and the settings. The settings are going to be pretty similar. As you can see, this is where we go to name it. But let's go into the recording mode, okay? Now there's going to be some additional settings in here that we didn't get with my older cameras that I want to focus on. I think pretty much anything you buy nowadays, if it's G5, G4, G4 Pro, G5 Pro, the Ultra series, you're going to be getting all of this setting. So I want to spend a little time on it. So we can quickly get in here and set how we want our cameras to record. So right now, let's just kind of talk through this. So when to record, I have mine set to always. What does this mean? So this actually means, is there a time I don't want them to record if they see motion, right? So I have them set to record events only. And I have it set to record events all the time. So maybe I don't care about events that happen in my house or at my house between 5 and 7 or whatever. I don't know. So I could set a custom schedule that says, do not record events during this window of time, okay? And I think where you live or how you want to set yours up would determine that. I don't know of anybody that has their set up like that, but could be, right? So that's what it means. I'm saying record events only, but do it all the time. I don't care if the event happens at 3 in the morning, I want you to record it, okay? Or there's continuous recording. So let's talk about this for a second. I only have a 1 terabyte hard drive in my UDM Pro. So I don't have much storage. In the world of storage and cameras, 1 terabyte is nothing. Most people have 8 terabytes minimum. And if you have an NVR that has multiple hard drives, I mean, it's 8. They can record as much as they want, right? Me, I'm limited. I don't put as much into camera systems. I like my camera system. I'm glad I have it, but I don't need it recording what's happening in the neighborhood all the time. I just don't need continuous recording. But if you have larger hard drive capacity, this is local storage. If you have a larger hard drive, maybe continuous is the better way to go. To me, I only care about when it detects things, okay? That's when I'm recording. And now the benefit of that is I can take my 1 terabyte hard drive and I can really stretch it out. It's not constantly recording every day, all day on 5 different cameras. It's only recording little bits and pieces of events here and there, and that allows me to stretch out my 1 terabyte. So that's a personal preference. I've learned in this, people are very specific on what they're looking for at a camera. You might see this system go, man, this is really cool. This does a good job. And then another guy who, is looking for this one feature is like, yeah, it doesn't have that. Psh, piece of garbage. I don't want it. So again, we're all very, very different as it pertains to camera security in our home. So this is done very well for me. I really like it. So as we go down, you can kind of set, these are little thresholds. So once it detects something, it'll actually start the recording 2 seconds before. So you actually get 2 seconds before and 2 seconds after on your little snip, which I think is really cool. We have it set to record AI events. So it's actually going to be able to detect animals, person, and vehicles. You notice that wasn't in my earlier version of cameras. We didn't have any of that. We could edit this. We could choose which ones we want it to do. We can tweak it a little bit, but I don't see any reason to turn off. I don't, whatever. But maybe you only care about animals or you only care about people coming to your property. Again, you can kind of tweak it how you'd like. All right, so recording quality, I would leave all this alone. Just leave the defaults. I think Ubiquiti does a good job. Again, we have our overlay information. And then we have our motion zones. Now notice we have edit motion zone, edit smart detection zone, add crossing lines, and add privacy zones. So we already touched base on privacy zones. We're not going to worry about that. We touched about motion zones. This is where it detects motion. It's going to start recording based off of motion. Okay, that's the same. Smart detections is another form of recording. So I actually have motion zones and smart detection zones. So it'll actually trigger a smart detection, so to speak, and tell me that an animal came in my yard in the pink area, that's where I'm at a certain time. And it'll tell me this happened. You had a rabbit in your yard at 3:30 p.m., if I cared to know about it. So you actually need to set both of these the way you want. And actually, I messed up. When I first set up this camera, I didn't go in and set up the edit smart detection zone. And I was getting all these notifications, I was getting all these detections of motion for cars driving by. And I'm like, I have that blocked out. Why is it doing it? Well, it was doing it because I had this set this way. You can see my wife walking through it right now. So it's going to trigger an event that my wife just walked through this, and it should detect that she was a person. Even though she's carrying something, I assume she'll still be able to tell that she's a person. So you're going to need to tweak both of these settings in yours based on how you'd like them set. All right, and then there's crossing lines. Now, I haven't used crossing lines, but basically you can say, there is none, add a crossing line, click the button below to add a new crossing line, and I believe this says once anybody crosses this line, however you have it set, it'll start recording it. Now, with the motion zones, I don't see a need to do crossing lines, but, again, everybody's layout, everybody's setting is a little bit different, and you might be able to change some of your notifications based on this. So I don't have a need for it. I guess I could just put it like right on my property line, and if somebody came into my property line from that way, I know about it, but I have it set with my motion zone. So I can't really say I fully understand the crossing line thing, but that's okay. That's all right. And so I'm happy with this. And so when you get your camera settings, what I recommend you guys doing is going in, editing your motion zones, edit your smart detection zones, and get it set the way you want. And it takes a little tweaking, a little playing with to get it set the way you like. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is how to view your cameras. Now, you already saw one per view here, right? You've seen how to access your cameras and your playback and your whatever on a computer. But I want to show you the mobile version because I think Ubiquiti's also done a really good job with the mobile version. So as you can kind of see on the screen, you got some things going on here. At the top, you got a quick little detection timeline. You can quickly get to people or vehicles and drop that down. One animal detection, that's kind of neat. Right now we have cameras set to multi-view. So if I click on that, you can see I can see all of them at one time, which is kind of neat. Or I can just scroll through each of the cameras here and click on them individually, drag and drop. So they've done a good job. So if you had things set a certain way that you wanted to, maybe you're doing continuous recording, you'd just be able to scroll through and look at this camera as the day went on, which is kind of neat. They've just done a really, really good job with that. So I just wanted to kind of point out that you can, kind of quickly get around and look at this stuff in the cameras. and get to all of them at the same time, which is really neat. Now, you can also adjust your settings, right? So we can come into our settings, we can adjust our push notifications that says when we're going to do things. You can mute your notifications. So maybe you're on an important phone call and you need them muted. You can actually do that in the app, which I think is really nice. Got some really nice stuff in here. We can quickly get to our motion zones here. See, my wife's going to be doing some work here. You can quickly get to your cameras and adjust the setting and the recording mode. All the stuff that we were just doing with motion zones, all that can be done in the app as well. So maybe you're getting a lot of detections with your G5 camera here, and you need to go in and adjust your smart detections, right? Maybe, my neighbor over here to the right of the screen, he's mowing, and I had my pink sort of capture area in his yard a little bit. I missed the tree line a little. So you can actually go in there and adjust it right on the fly so you don't get a notification every time your neighbor goes by on a lawnmower. And sometimes you got to catch those things in the act. They just, you don't know. You do the best you can. Sometimes you want to know if there's the neighbor's mowing your half of the lawn, right? Make sure he's staying on his side, right? And everybody's situation is different when it comes to the neighbors. So lots of things you can do in here, quick ways to get in everything, and it is a nice way to quickly view your cameras and get to your setup and your dashboard and notifications. You can turn that on so you can see right now I have my notifications on right now. I can mute them for 1 hour. I can mute until tomorrow 8 a.m. or customize it, or I can go to my push notifications and set it that way too. I can also see some of my logs, some of the stuff we're talking about there. So typically a lot of times the phone app doesn't have as much of the capacity for as the desktop version, and that still is the case. Ubiquiti does put more on the desktop version than they do on the phone, but with the Unifi Protect, it's actually pretty close, and I like seeing that. So it's really not a bad system here, not bad at all. So the last thing I want to show you guys for viewing capabilities of your camera is a little device that Ubiquiti makes that allows you to watch your cameras on your TV. And it is called the Protect Viewpoint. So you can see right here, we're on the Unifi store, and this is a device that allows you to, it's a PoE device, so you just would need Ethernet, and basically it's HDMI on one side and Ethernet on the other side, and it gets its power and its connectivity from that Ethernet port, and it basically allows you to stick it on the back of a TV. You can see it's very small, and it allows you to view your cameras on a TV. So flexible mounting, connects with via PoE, and easy to use hub. It's a viewing hub to view your Protect camera feeds on an HDMI display. So kind of a neat deal. This is a way you could add your cameras to a TV and be able to watch the video footage that way. Now, I actually own one of these. I bought it quite a while ago, and I'm going to do a video on it. I just haven't had the time. We're actually finishing our basement, and so a lot of the little things that I wanted to tweak and play with and whatever, I've had to kind of put away in storage, and I haven't really had as much time to do it as I'd like. So I plan on doing a video feature on this. I'm sure you can find some stuff on YouTube about it. I've heard really good things, and I just think it's really nice that if you want, maybe in your office, you want your cameras up all the time on your TV or something while you're working, and you just want to, kind of know if you got to go into DEFCON 5, then you can do that with a pretty simple little device, and it'll allow you to view those cameras. So that is yet another way that Ubiquiti's come up with that allows you to view your cameras without having to do any kind of gimmicky weird apps or try and make Unifi Protect work on your TV, or sending them. Like a lot of times we'll do like the live streams to your TV, and they struggle with it. And so I just think this is a really nice way of doing it. And you can really grab any TV in your house that has Ethernet, which is really cool too. You're not limited to having to put a TV next to your NVR like a lot of the old camera systems. So really neat device. I think they've done a good job with it. I plan on doing a video down the road, but I wanted to point it and bring it to your attention as part of this video series in case you were shopping, and that is the perfect device that you need. Okay guys, that is going to do it. Not only for this video, but also for the series. So thank you guys for watching. If you did watch the series all the way through, I appreciate the support there. I hope there was some aspect of it that you found helpful. Obviously, we can't cover everything, but if you have suggestions of something that was missed or whatever, please leave comments below. I'm always willing to do a separate video on it and display it for my viewers if enough people ask for it. And that's how a lot of my videos have come to be. People like you guys have been asking for them, and so I try to do a video on it. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. It wasn't too boring and dull, but yet at the same time, it was at a level that, you know, even a newbie can understand, which is important. This is a scary, scary world to get into if this isn't your normal day-to-day skill set. So hopefully you were able to follow along and do some of the concepts we talked about here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and we'll see you down the road in some future videos.